Why is darkness spreading across Ukraine? And why is the world entering a new kind of war? The latest attacks are not just another round of explosions. They signal a dramatic shift that could change the fate of an entire region, and possibly the world. Across Ukraine, massive and methodical Russian strikes are crippling the country's energy and infrastructure. Cities that once bustled with life, like Kharkiv, now struggle in total darkness, without reliable electricity, public transport, or even basic communication. Everyday life is breaking down, and the signs of collapse are everywhere. But this isn't chaos for chaos's sake. The sheer scale and precision of these attacks reveal a long-term strategy to systematically destroy Ukraine's energy, industrial, and military backbone. This is not a quick campaign. It is a war designed to exhaust, to erode morale, and to reshape the balance of power over months, maybe even years. If you see this as just another escalation, you risk missing the emergence of a new, brutal phase of conflict, one that could send shockwaves through economies and global politics, no matter where you live. Understanding these changes is crucial, whether you have business interests, family ties, or simply want to make sense of a rapidly shifting world. So how did we reach this turning point? And what exactly has changed on the ground? Let's break down the escalation and the new tactics shaping Ukraine's future. The war in Ukraine is no longer just about tanks and front lines. Now it's about electricity, factories, and civilians caught in the crossfire. Across Ukraine, Russian forces are escalating attacks on the country's energy grids, factories, and communication hubs. No region is truly untouched. In Kharkiv, the second-largest city, entire neighborhoods have been plunged into darkness for several days in a row. Residents live without power or reliable communication, as wave after wave of strikes target not only substations, but also vital industrial sites supplying the city. And Kharkiv isn't alone. In Odesa, Chernihiv, and Lviv, precise strikes are hitting key military and industrial assets, ports, factories, repair facilities, and rail networks. These attacks aren't random. They point to advanced intelligence gathering, with drones and long-range missiles working together to cripple Ukraine's ability to fight, move, and even communicate. On social media, the humanitarian impact is impossible to ignore. Videos show civilians huddled by candlelight as fires burn in the night. Entire cities find themselves isolated, struggling to maintain even basic services like transport or medical response. The risk is clear. The longer these attacks continue, the more Ukraine's infrastructure will collapse, and with it, the fabric of society may begin to unravel. We're talking about the real possibility of chaos, mass displacement, and an economic crisis on a national scale. But the battle for Ukraine isn't just being fought from the air or in the blackout of its cities. The front lines themselves are changing shape. Let's take a closer look at the new military dynamics unfolding on the ground. But the battlefield is shifting too. Next, we'll break down how the fighting on the front lines is evolving in response to this new reality. The battlefield is shifting, and so are the rules of engagement. Across key hotspots like Pokrovsk, Kupiansk, and Zaporizhzhia, Russian forces are pressing forward, not just seeking territory, but aiming to stretch Ukrainian defenses to the breaking point. Their strategy is methodical, isolating Ukrainian units, while threatening vital supply lines and command posts in the rear. Ukrainian positions are feeling the strain. As Russian advances force rapid redeployments, Ukrainian supply chains are exposed and increasingly difficult to protect. Commanders must make tough choices about where to send their dwindling reserves, while the risk of encirclement grows with every kilometer lost. Reports from the front and the rear highlight new layers of complexity. Foreign fighters and advisors are present in key sectors, adding both expertise and controversy. At the same time, internal disputes and mounting losses among Ukrainian units raise questions about cohesion and morale. But perhaps the most striking evolution is in the skies. Drone warfare has surged to a new intensity. Both sides now launch hundreds of drones daily for attack, surveillance, and electronic warfare. This relentless drone activity is overwhelming Ukrainian air defenses, which must contend with mass barrages of both drones and missiles, straining already limited resources and forcing difficult prioritization. If either side cannot adapt to these shifting tactics and mounting pressures, they risk losing far more than ground. The true stakes are the initiative, the will to fight, and the trust of their own soldiers and citizens. This war of exhaustion is not confined to trenches and skies. It bleeds into the economic and political lifeblood of both nations, shaping the broader struggle for survival. As the front lines grind on, the economic and political battles in the rear may prove just as decisive and just as punishing. Beyond bombs and bullets, a shadow war is being waged, in banks, backrooms, and broadcast feeds. This is no longer just a contest of armies, but a test of entire societies under immense and prolonged strain. In Ukraine, the government faces a hard reality. Mass mobilization is underway, with men up to the age of 60 being called to serve. Restrictions are tightening, and young men are now largely barred from leaving the country, fueling anxiety and uncertainty across communities. Rumors swirl that this new wave of mobilization is closely linked to incoming Western aid. As talk of foreign weapons and support grows, so does the sense of panic. Families are left guessing who will be sent to fight next, and when the rules might change again. On the Russian side, the battlefield extends far beyond the front lines. Russian authorities are systematically seizing assets and operations of foreign companies within their borders, transforming economic pressure into a weapon of war. This sharp counter-move to Western sanctions is reshaping the business climate, with ripple effects in energy, finance, and trade reaching far beyond Russia's own economy. Meanwhile, both sides ramp up their information warfare. State media and official channels try to control the story, but real events, devastating strikes, humanitarian crises, or rare battlefield advances, leak out almost instantly through social media and independent sources. The truth emerges in fragments, making it harder than ever for ordinary people to know what is really happening. Even Ukraine's Western backers are feeling the strain. Political debates over aid and accountability are heating up, causing delays and uncertainty just when stability is needed most. Each round of hesitation and scrutiny only deepens unpredictability, raising the stakes for Ukraine, Russia, and the wider region. As a result, the risks are immense. Social cohesion, political stability, and basic economic survival now hang in the balance. Not just for those on the front lines, but for millions affected by financial shocks and media storms around the world. So how can ordinary people, business leaders, or anyone watching from afar adapt and make informed decisions amid such a complex and changing conflict? Let's explore practical steps for navigating this new reality. In a war where nothing is safe, how do you protect what matters most? This new era of conflict demands more than hope. It requires concrete action. For ordinary citizens, the first step is to strengthen local communities. Building trust and support networks can make the difference during power outages, service disruptions, or even personal crises. Prepare for interruptions in electricity, water, and communications, and develop mental resilience to cope with ongoing stress and uncertainty. For businesses, adaptation is critical. Diversify your supply chains to avoid relying on any single route or partner, especially when sanctions or market shocks can strike without warning. Invest in robust data protection and cybersecurity. Today's attacks target more than just physical assets. Every organization should have contingency plans ready for rapid shifts in the commercial or regulatory landscape. For everyone, one skill stands out: the ability to discern fact from fiction. Learn to verify information before sharing it. Avoid propaganda traps and echo chambers by seeking out multiple sources and supporting transparent, credible channels. In a world where digital misinformation can spark real-world consequences, vigilance is not optional. It is essential. Most importantly, recognize that modern conflict no longer stops at the battlefield. The boundaries between military and civilian life and between physical and digital realms are blurred. Whether you live in a conflict zone or far away, adaptation is your shield against the ripple effects of total conflict. Failing to heed these lessons could mean financial loss, reputational damage, or even putting loved ones at risk. This is not just about staying informed, it's about survival and resilience in a rapidly changing world. Now that we've unpacked the tools for resilience, let's confront the broader truths about this new era and what the future may hold for us all. The darkness in Ukraine is not just a blackout, it is a warning to us all. What we are witnessing is not simply the fog of war, but the deliberate and systematic targeting of a nation's backbone, its energy, its industry, its ability to function. The rules of conflict have changed. This is no longer only about battles between armies. It is about who can endure, adapt, and outlast under relentless pressure on every front. Russia's new campaign of attrition signals that victory will depend less on dramatic advances and more on breaking the opponent's will, economy, and infrastructure. For Ukraine, every day in the cold and dark is a test of resilience. For Russia, it is a gamble that sustained pressure will force concessions before running out of resources or support. Economic warfare, information manipulation, and psychological strain now weigh as heavily as any battlefield. The front line is everywhere, in the power grid, in supply chains, and in the minds of the public. The world must recognize that the outcome of this war will shape the security, freedom, and truth of the entire region, perhaps even beyond. The greatest risk is complacency. Those who fail to understand the new realities of modern warfare risk not only flawed judgments, but also their own stability, investments, and even safety. The ability to adapt, whether as a leader, an observer, or someone with ties to the region, will determine who preserves what matters most. This is not the last time nations will face wars waged in darkness, both literal and figurative. The lesson from Ukraine is clear. Survival now demands clarity, foresight, and a willingness to confront hard truths. It is time to act with eyes open and with purpose.